It's episode 6 of Demetris and a Splash of Fanta right here on the Field of 68. Head to @Field of68 on Twitter. I'm at John_Fanta. He is at Nichols_Demetris, the former Syracuse Orange Star. D, happy holidays. How's it going, man?
Everything is good. You see I got my sweater on because it's cold here in Syracuse, but everything is good, getting ready for the Christmas holidays. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very, very well. We've got a bunch to get to here today. College basketball, we're nearing Christmas, and I think everybody was wondering how would this first month go. The fact is you're getting around 80% of the games that are getting played, and at this juncture, for the most part, things have gone pretty much as well as I think they could have gone. We always expected there to be some obstacles. We always expected there to be stoppages, cancellations, pauses, but we said come hell or high water, there's got to be a season, and here we are. So we got a lot to get to today. We will talk about the big matchup between Kansas and Texas Tech coming up later this week, and we'll also highlight some of the top stars in the sport. One freshman who is kind of getting overshadowed by Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State, and rightly so. The Cowboys are off to a great start to their season. I wish they were eligible for the postseason. All right. We got a lot going on. Field of 68 here. Jeff Goodman, Robbie Hummel every week. Christie's Court with Christy Winter-Scott. They just she had Tara Vanderveer on a couple weeks ago, and Tara just became the women's all-time wins leader at 1099. So congrats to her, one of the legends of the game.
Yes. Nah, man, like you said, basketball is here, and hopefully we can continue to play through the new year and guys and teams get some type of rhythm, get some type of flow, because there's still fear of the unknown, what's going to happen. And we're going to talk about that later on in the show about, some teams who had postponed their season. So let's just get into it, and let's start with Keyontae Johnson.
Yeah, Keyontae Johnson, it's the top story in the sport in my mind because of just how sad it was on Saturday when he did collapse on the floor. Very scary situation down in Gainesville, the Florida Gators standout, collapsing and getting taken to the hospital. But on Tuesday, a beam of light.
Yeah.
Good news. He is in stable condition at the hospital, breathing on his own. He was able to talk with his parents, talk with doctors. He FaceTimed the Gators team. And so God bless Keyontae Johnson and his family. It was so good to see that news on Tuesday afternoon. Obviously, a lot of questions out there about how this happened and what happened here that led to this. And so, our thoughts and best wishes are with Keyontae. It was so sad to see what happened. You would never imagine that happening to anybody, nor alone a college basketball player.
Nor alone your best player and best rebounder on the team. And when I think about Johnson, I think about guys like Len Bias and Reggie Lewis, guys who have lost their lives on this basketball court. And most fans don't know that athletes tend to have enlarged hearts, especially basketball players, because of the up and down running and jumping and the all-year training that you have to compete at a high level. You think about Shaquille O'Neal's son, who goes to LSU. He just had heart surgery. And I personally remember every year, depending on every team I go to, they always check your heart. They always ask about your heart history. Does your mother have heart problems? Does your father have heart problems? I'm just happy that he's healthy and he's talking to his family and friends and his teammates. I want to make sure that his tests come back normal, so he's able to get back on the court and play and compete and play the game that he loves at a high level.
Yeah, certainly. Just a tragic scenario, the way that played out over the weekend, but great news to see that he is able to talk and breathe and be able to interact with the doctors and his parents. So thank goodness for that. But that's certainly going to be a storyline to continue to watch. We wish him all the best. He's a star player, a tremendous player, and hopefully everything can pan out okay. Let's turn to the sport of college basketball. What we saw in the early portion of the week. So Tuesday night, a couple of teams in action. We saw one top 25 team go down, that being Clemson. They lose to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech has had a couple of really nice results here earlier in the season. They beat Villanova, they beat Clemson, but elsewhere, I think it's interesting. Illinois loses to Missouri. They come back. They absolutely run Minnesota off the floor. They just flex their muscles. I was wowed by that. Did not expect a blowout in that fashion. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, you've got Wisconsin beats Loyola Chicago. Wisconsin does what they do. They out-defend you. They've got senior-laden players between Davison and Demetris. They're loaded with experience. And then Florida State gives up a 15-0 second-half run to Georgia Tech, but then Scotty Barnes just continues to show why he is very likely a guy that's going to be drafted high next summer. He's a big-time freshman. And so Florida State is able to beat Georgia Tech. That's their ACC opener win. And how about Florida State? They've now won 18 straight ACC home games. 18 straight ACC home games. That is hard to do. I don't care how the league stacks up. So Seminoles, Illini, Badgers, of these three teams who are all kind of ranked around each other, I'm curious, D, who do you trust the most now?
Well, I know you like Florida State, and I don't want to agree with – Florida State is a great team. Like you said, they've won 18 straight. They won the ACC championship last year. They was fourth in the nation before the whole pandemic started. They have guys that can step up any given night. MJ Walker, Scotty Burns are two of their best guys. They always play defense. They turn you over and they block shots. But the team who I trust, I like Illinois. And we mentioned them bouncing back, beating a good team in Minnesota after losing to a good team in Mizzou. Mizzou is still a good, solid team that can still get to the basket. They can score. They play fast. They play tough. This is the team that plays with energy. Brad Underwood talked about getting back to who they are, stepping up, guys taking defensive assignments personally, also guys making free throws. And when they played Mizzou a couple of days ago, they shot 60% from the free throw line. That's not good enough. That's 11 points. They left 11 points on the board that could have helped them beat this Missouri really, really, really good team. Kofi Cockburn was 9 for 15 from the free throw line, which is huge for them because he struggles from the free throw line. So they have to just learn how to hit first. This is a team that is very, very talented, but they seem to react instead of reacting. And that's what happened when they played Missouri. But if they learn how to play with that chip on their shoulder from the beginning of the game and coming out in halftime and playing with a chip on their shoulder, I think they have a chance to go on 3-game winning streaks, 4-game winning streaks, and really be a problem in college basketball.
Well, Kofi Cockburn is a problem, and against Minnesota, he just absolutely dominated the post. When you have a team that already has the likes of Ayo Dosunmu and Trent Frazier, who I think does so many things that don't get accounted for, don't get talked about enough, and then you have that presence in the paint, the Fighting Illini are one of the most fun teams in the sport. They're one of the most enjoyable teams to watch in the sport, and they're going to be fine. The loss to Missouri, sometimes there's good to take out of something like that. Clearly there was, because they blew the barn doors off of Minnesota. By the way, with Florida State, I had to bring this up. How about the fact that they have a banner up in the rafters that says NCAA tournament, projected, I think it says projected number 4 overall seed.
Yeah.
And then it says canceled on the banner. What a move by the Knowles.
That's you know what? But that just kind of motivates the fellas like, hey, let's remember who we are. Let's remember what we did last year. Let's bring that in to this year, even though they lost 4 major.
Yeah, but hold on. If you were Syracuse playing an ACC game down in Florida State, you looked up and saw that banner, canceled, but yeah, we made the tournament. What would you say?
But not just make the tournament. They were the best team in the ACC. So
I'm saying, if you were a Syracuse player, would you roll your eyes?
You know what? As a player, I'm not really looking in the stand.
I know.
So So as a player, I'm just like, all right, well, that was last year. This is this year. Let's roll out the ball and let's play. But I think it's a pretty good move. I think it's a psychological move. It gives you something to think about. It gives you something to talk about. I think it's pretty cool. What do you think?
Well, this is my follow-up here. Look, it's a savage move, and I'm all for it. The tournament got canceled. They were going to make it. Put the banner up. Put the damn banner up. I love it. But here's my question. I have always wondered this about players. When the starting lineup video's going and the place is going crazy, how much attention are you paying to all the pregame stuff going on?
That's a great question. That is a great question because some guys sit back and they enjoy the show.
They enjoy it. I know they do.
So, especially when, so let's say I'm home and we are in the Carrier Dome, but if I'm away, we're playing away. Me personally, I don't want to look at anybody else but myself and my teammates. I want to lock in on what we have to do. I don't want to see the opponent dunking and shooting threes and celebrating. You know, psychologically, I think that does something to the opponent, and I think that's why teams do that. They put their best highlights up in the rafters, so hoping that the opposing team can lose their confidence. So I want to keep my confidence. So I stay locked in. I think about my goals. I think about what the game plan is, and I lock in on the game.
I was just curious. I think I've seen guys on the bench sit back and watch and just take it all in and then, you know, do whatever. But then it's interesting. It's interesting. You could totally – I think when you're on the road and they got flames, like I've been at the Cintas Center and they've got pyrotechnics and we got fire going all over the place. It's hard to not pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But so usually everybody has their own – pre-game ritual, or, you know, some guys go to the bathroom, some guys stretch, some guys sit on the bench, some guys, you know, do their prayer, some guys touch the net, you know.
What was yours?
Mine's was I would do a prayer, I would hit the ball, and I would shoot a layup. So I'll shoot layups until the whole show is over because I want to get my rhythm. I want to stay warm. I want to stay focused during the game because there's so many distractions from the fans, from the whistle, from the sneakers, from the players,
from Boeheim,
from everything. So depending on who you are, you have to go what works for you. I know for me, I was just dialed in, laser focused, mama mentality. I want to shoot everybody's heads off.
So back to this discussion here. I trust Florida State. And, like, we didn't even bring up Wisconsin, and it's really hard for me to not say Wisconsin because they play the perfect formula to a degree that gives them a chance to be in any game with any team, and they have all the experience. But my fear with Wisconsin is Virginia-esque, that in the event they're not finding any sort of an offensive groove, that they just have an off night from the field, and in the NCAA tournament, they lose to a team that finds it from beyond the arc, where your defense just doesn't matter as much because the team has a hot shooting night and you lose. Wisconsin's shown us otherwise for the most part in the tournament. They're a team that can make a deep run. They could be in the Final Four for all that I'm saying right now. But I just have a trust level. Here's why I love Florida State. They have this interchangeable nature. You saw their draft picks this past year.
Guy off the bench went top 10.
Yeah, exactly. Went top 10. And these are guys that were not averaging 20 points a game. Nope. They were guys that were just being in their role, but you could see the NBA in them. You could see the NBA in Patrick Williams. You could see the NBA in these players for the Seminoles that have gone in the draft rather early these past couple of years. That's a direct credit to Leonard Hamilton. He is the fine wine of college basketball. He doesn't age. His teams play their asses off, and they're only allowing 64 points per game. Their rebounding margin is +5 on average. Florida State plays a style, a way. They have a versatility about them that makes them really difficult to prepare for. And I think that they are good enough to win the ACC again this year.
You know what? I absolutely 100% agree with you because, like we mentioned, they play defense. They played 10 guys, and they block shots. They have a system where they are tough to guard because they have guys that can switch, guys that can play man, guys that can play the 1, 2, 3, 4, guys that can play two positions. And that's what makes them unique. Florida State recruits guys that can play two positions. So depending on who's playing well, who's not playing well, they're always interchangeable. They always have guys that can come in. Their second unit can be a starting five on any team in the country. And that's what makes them unique because they have a system, they have a philosophy. Hey, you may play 15 minutes, you may play 20 minutes, but there's scouts out there that's watching you. So if you play 15 minutes and you score 8 points per game, 6 rebounds, you have a chance to get drafted in the NBA. So of course these guys are going to play hard. And they know that if they play hard, everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Yeah, and they're winning. They are 4-0. They are a dangerous, dangerous team, and they're just a bitch to play. I mean, they really are. They are so hard to play against. And I'll tell you what, the Seminoles are just a well-oiled machine that does not get talked about enough.
Oh.
You know, people think Florida State, they've always thought football, and I get it. They're a basketball school, okay?
Yes.
And their football program's taken a big-time fall. They're a basketball school, baby. Florida State is right there at the dinner table with the big-time programs in college basketball.
I'm actually surprised that they're not even top 10 yet.
Yeah, you know, they
14, I think. Or
yeah, they haven't played as many games, and it's not like they own, you know, outstanding victories, but they won their Big Ten ACC Challenge game against Indiana, against an Indiana team that'll be a tournament team. They beat a Georgia Tech team that people thought could be better this year, but Georgia Tech's had a couple of falls. But they were resilient. And now a team that's this versatile has a freshman in Scotty Barnes who is playing out of his mind at times. He does things that other freshmen do not do. I love this kid's game. I really, really do. So the Seminoles are a team that we both trust. I know you went with Illinois, and there's no shame in that. But in this case, we're high on Florida State. Let's get to our team spotlight.
Sure. Team
spotlight, and we are centering this week on a team that is not in the top 25. But I believe that if they could continue this week to do what they need to do, they absolutely deserve to be ranked. If they can beat Seton Hall on Thursday, then this is a team that has 2 top 10 wins. They put them up in a span of 11 days. We are talking about the Marquette Golden Eagles, who beat Creighton, 9th-ranked Blue Jays, 89-84 on Monday night, a 54-point second half for Marquette. Everybody asked, how are they going to score the ball in the post-Marcus Howard era? Well, you're never going to go 7 for 9 for 3 every night. It's not going to happen. But they did. They went 7 for 9 from 3 in the second half. They had 5 players in double figures. The Golden Eagles fit Steve Wojciechowski's style. They fit the way he's wanted to play with a defense-first mentality, but they found their offense out at Creighton. A good Creighton team, but they were the better squad.
This team is dangerous because they can shoot threes. They shoot 38% as a team from the three-point line. They get to the basket if they choose. They already have 5 guys. They have 5 guys with plus 20 free throw attempts. So that means they get to the basket, they get to the free throw line, and finally they hustle. They crash the boards. 2 of their biggest wins were basically on tip-ins. You know, so they crashed the boards. Guys like Kobe McNewen, Dawson Garcia, DJ Carlton, all those guys. And actually DJ Carlton, even though he's a third leading scorer, he's the best passer on the team, and he's probably the best player. He's a very, very unique, unselfish player that are letting other guys take the scoring load, and he's just being the facilitator, scoring when he needs to, being that leader that they have to have. And this is a young team. But we didn't think that they were going to be this good that they bounce back after losing to Oklahoma State, which is 6-0. They should be ranked, but obviously the thing that's going on in Oklahoma State. But here's the number that stood out for me for Marquette. The last game, 54% they got offensive rebounds. If you rebound the ball 54% off of offensive rebound, good things are going to happen. Putbacks, extra possessions. So this team hustles. They play hard. They shoot threes. But now, not only they can shoot threes, they can throw it in the post and play out of the post.
Yep.
That makes them dangerous because a lot of teams just think that they can shoot threes, but now they have a second option, throwing it in the post and making a play.
That is the difference for them. They can get the basketball inside. They do not need the three-point shot. It was falling on Monday, and you need it against Creighton specifically, but they can get to the rim. And the biggest thing for Marquette is it was imperative that the young talent that came into the program, that was injected into this program, the top recruiting class in the Big East, a top 25 recruiting class nationally, could they live up to the hype? Recruiting class rankings are just that, rankings. We've seen plenty of classes flake out, plenty of classes be okay as freshmen. You bring in Dawson Garcia, you bring in Justin Lewis, who is a glue guy of sorts and is mature beyond his years. He's got the intangibles you want, leadership, even as a freshman, gritty, a gritty nature about his skill set. How about Garcia and Lewis in their first Big East game had a combined 25 points and 19 rebounds. The ability of two freshmen to do that on a team where Theo John's a senior, on a team where Kobe McEwen is a steady Eddie guard, the two things that I had in mind with Marquette were, could Garcia and Lewis deliver to their hype? They are. And then could DJ Carden show us why he was an Ohio State Buckeye to begin with? He transferred. He went through some issues. We hope that those mental health issues, obviously, that those are past him and that he's gotten past those different things. He looks like he has just a great mindset right now. He had 5 assists against Creighton, but so many other plays. When Creighton got within 1, he came up with a huge three-pointer, and he has the ball in his hands late. He has filled the go-to guy role that Marcus Howard occupied. And the thing about him, Demetris, is he can facilitate for other players. Marcus Howard was a great scorer, and other players were better because he took up a lot of attention. Carden is making plays for others. This just, for Marquette, this is who they've been striving to be. And Steve Wojciechowski hasn't had this type of team. He's now in his 7th year at the helm. They've got to win. It's crucial for the program. They haven't won an NCAA tournament game in his time as their head coach. And it looks like this is a team that can do it because they do have young talent. Young talent that, look, could they lose some games? Could they go through a cold spell? Absolutely. All young talent does. But in a year where you don't have to face road atmospheres, and in a year where you don't have to, you're not playing in front of 18,000 at Creighton, I think it's helpful for a young team. They've come together. They've played a tough schedule. I love the way that they've played. They're 5-2. They're a tournament team.
Sure, for sure. You said something that stood out to me. They're young. And this was a concern for them last year, taking care of the basketball. Can they take care of that basketball? And I think if they can really be the number 1, 2, or top 3 team in the Big East. It's going to be interesting when they play Seton Hall because Seton Hall can go zone. And we know that Oklahoma State went zone against Marquette, forcing them to do things that they didn't want to do or they're not comfortable doing. So it's going to be interesting what scheme Seton Hall plays defensively for Marquette. But I think Marquette has learned their lesson. They've been through the fire, losing to 2 good teams, but you can tell that they're confident. They're confident, 2 big wins, and now it's just consistency. Let's build on it. Let's continue to stay hungry. Don't get satisfied. This is what you're supposed to do. This is going to be our culture. And I think they're really, really going to take a step this year.
Yeah, they need to. This was a critical year for the program, critical time in the post-Marcus Howard era. We know that they lost Sam and Joey Hauser a couple years ago. Sam to Virginia, Joey to Michigan State. It's too bad that Michigan State was off.
Yeah.
But for Marquette, they are in the top 3 of the Big East in field goal percentage defense, 3-point field goal percentage defense, rebounding margin. And when you combine that with the playmaking ability of Carton and the fact that they do have some shot makers, Greg Elliott, Kobe McEwen, you've got Garcia and Lewis who are really comfortable in their own skin and the way they play. This is the type of team that Steve Wojciechowski's been striving for at Marquette.
Got the team that he wants.
He's always wanted to be a good defensive team. It really appears that they've turned a corner there, and now they finally got their offense going really consistently for the course of 40 minutes in a great second half. 54 points in the second half. Creighton will be fine. I thought that they struggled from the free throw line. They struggled at times from beyond the arc, and they did struggle defensively. It's early in the season. They're going to be okay, but that's a great win for Marquette. Marquette, with 2 top 10 wins in the span of 11 days, in a season where non-conference play, there's no guarantee to it, that has unlimited mileage to it come Selection Sunday this year.
And it's going to continue to build their confidence and continue to let them know, hey, you can play anyone in the country if we play a certain way.
Yep.
And if they continue to learn so I was speaking to one of the assistant coaches, Jake Pasuti, and he was saying they're constantly learning on the fly. Every single day is a day to get better, watch film, get better in practice, and they're taking those steps. So, kudos to them, and I just hope that they continue to play well in the Big East and eventually get ranked.
Interesting game Thursday night when they meet Seton Hall in Milwaukee. The Pirates have had Marquette's number a little bit here. Last year they swept them. And in Milwaukee, Sandro Mamukelashvili had 28 points. Bill Raftery calls him Mamu, so that means it's acceptable for anybody to call him that. But Mamukelashvili had 32 against St. John's. He is on a mission. He's 6'11". He's playing like an NBA draft pick. So you've got Mamukelashvili on one side. You've got Dawson Garcia on another. 2 guys that are really versatile in the way that they play, but one's a senior, one's a freshman. It sets up for a really interesting matchup for Marquette. Can they sustain it? Can they sustain it, string things together from game to game? That's how you get into the poll come Monday. For Seton Hall, they have not played since last Friday when they beat St. John's, and Mamukelashvili was great. But the biggest question for Seton Hall is, who is going to step up beyond the star senior? Is it Jared Roden? Is it Miles Kale? Is it Tyrese Samuel? Shavar Reynolds has been great filling in for Bryce Aiken and really taking all of his duties at point guard. So that the middle of that Big East is really, it's got such an interesting element to it because there's a level of unknown between like Marquette, Xavier, who's 7-0. People didn't expect that. Butler's only played a game. St. John's, they've had a letdown. They've started 0-2 in conference play. But like Providence and Seton Hall, it's been a mixed bag thus far. So the middle of the Big East is going to be just straight bonkers.
Sure. And you said it. Marquette's biggest concern against Seton Hall is the paint toughness. You mentioned Mamu. He's a problem. 6'11". He can finish, use both hands. He can shoot it. The paint toughness is going to be Marquette's biggest challenge. Can they get consistent stops? Can they rebound? Maybe if they're playing against the zone, can they crash the boards? Can they get Mamu in foul trouble and put him on the bench and make the game easier?
They do that, they're going to win.
So we'll see.
So much of what Seton Hall does is around Mamukelashvili. Now, Marquette will have to combat Iko Biagu, who's been pretty solid for Seton Hall, 7-footer from coming over from Florida State. We'll see. This will be an interesting matchup between the Pirates and the Golden Eagles on Thursday night. Yeah. Let's turn to Star Watch a little bit. I've got my star. Which star are you taking a look at here this week?
You know what? I was thinking about this, and it's going to be the same person that I thought about last week. Ron Harper Jr., man. He's probably one of my favorite players in college basketball. He is dominant. It seems like he can't be guarded. And it's going to be interesting when they play Illinois next week.
Yeah, on Sunday. Yep.
I'm sorry, on Sunday. Who's going to be able, because we know Ayo Dosunmu versus Geo Baker. Kofi Cockburn versus Miles Johnson, who averages 2.5 blocks per game. So you have a big matchup. You have a point guard matchup. But Ron Harper versus no one, because I believe no one can guard him right now. He's hot, averaging 23 points per game. He's efficient. He doesn't take a lot of shots, and he plays with energy. He gives his team life. Geo Baker's back. He's an extra vet that can score. So I really, really like this Rutgers team, and I love Ron Harper Jr. So that's my pick again for the second week in a row.
Yeah, there's no shame in that. And Rutgers made a statement at Maryland. They overwhelmed the Terrapins in the second half. Maryland's in a retooling year after losing Anthony Cowan, after losing some size inside. But by the same token, that was just a really convincing effort by Rutgers. They continue to show why they're a top 25 team and now a top 20 team. My star watch stays in the Big Ten, and I'm going to go with Hunter Dickinson, an ESPN top 40 recruit out of high school. He is giving Michigan everything they could ask for and more in the paint. We knew that Eli Brooks and then the 6'7" Isaiah Livers was going to have to do a lot for this Michigan team. Dickinson's making it easy for the Wolverines front court. Michigan only beat Penn State by 4 over the weekend. Penn State's actually outperformed what I thought they would. Like when I watched them play, that they're better than I thought they would be, considering everything they went through in the preseason with Pat Chambers and now Jim Ferry coming in. But here's the thing with Michigan. Dickinson at 7 feet tall, the ability to just rule the paint. You know, we've seen it with Michigan here with Mo Wagner and with the size that they've had in the past, the ability to control a game in the post. Dickinson is the real deal. He is looking like, you know, a top 5 freshman in America, if not better than that. This kid is a stud, and he's got 5 straight double-digit scoring performances. So when I see a freshman doing that consistently this early in the season, that says to me he's not going to spend much time in Ann Arbor because he's going to be making his money in the league.
That says to me that they have a great coach. They have a great coach who played in the league, who knows what it takes to get to the next level, who's putting batteries in his players' back, letting them know, hey, you want to make it to the next level? I have the blueprint. I have the cheat sheet here. If you do X, Y, and Z, you can take your game to the next level. And that's the beauty of playing for a coach who has experience, who played numbers of years in the NBA, who knows what it takes.
Yeah, Dickinson is really – Juwan Howard's got him going early. And Juwan Howard, when he was hired, it was a great story. It was an emotional story. John Beilein had been so good in Ann Arbor. So you're having to replace an absolute legend. But Juwan Howard had formed his legend as a player in Ann Arbor. The thought was, could he do it as a coach? He's showing why he was hired. He's been a great hire and then some. He has absolutely panned out. Michigan is a Big Ten team that, because of the nature of the Big Ten Conference this year, where you've got Wisconsin, where you've got Illinois, where you've got, out of the 3 teams, Iowa, with the best player in the sport, Luka Garza, who's just – like, I knew he'd be great, but he's been even better than great, if that makes sense. Where you've got Rutgers, where you've got Ohio State, where you've got Indiana. Michigan wasn't the first thought that popped into people's minds in the Big Ten this year, but because of Dickinson, they have a chance to climb in the Big Ten. And we know what Eli Brooks can do as part of the Michigan backcourt. The Wolverines have a nice-looking formula and a good mix of senior talent, but also some young players that have provided a boost, and Dickinson's at the forefront of that.
They have the blueprint, like you mentioned. Juwan Howard, NBA champion. He knows what it takes to build an NBA foundation team. Not saying that Michigan is going to win a national championship, but they have certain coaches and staff that knows what it takes to take your game to the next level. They know about consistency. They know about playing hard. They treasure every possession, offensively and defensively. They, like you mentioned, they have a mixture of vets and younger players, and that's exactly what you need. Vets to teach the younger players how to work, and coaches are teaching the vets how to lead, and that's what they're doing. So kudos to Juwan Howard being a top 25 team. I see them climbing up the ladder because they're going to surprise a lot of teams in the Big Ten. So I'm just excited to sit back and watch.
Let's turn to our game to watch. It is also a Thursday night game. Thursday's loaded in the sport of college basketball. We have a Big 12 game, folks. A Big 12 game that, I'll tell you what, we know that Kansas is a team that's one of the best in the country, has already shown it.
It have been. As the last 10 years, they've been one of the top 5 teams in the country.
Well, of course. But what we don't know is just how good is Texas Tech, because they lost to Houston. Houston is now 6th in the country. Shocking. It's amazing to see the Cougars that high, but they deserve it. But Texas Tech hasn't really beaten anybody. Well, they get to host Kansas on Thursday night. But going into this matchup, this is my concern if I'm the Red Raiders. In their rotation, they don't have anybody taller than 6'7". Now, if you were dealing with Udoka Azubuike, that would really be a concern. Mm-hmm. But Kansas has found the versatility in their length in the form of Jalen Wilson, who has been just flat out fantastic. Yet another freshman who has impressed in this sport this year, averaging 15 and 9 per game, and I'm wondering how Texas Tech is going to contain him. We know for Texas Tech that they have the backcourt players with Shannon and with Kyler Edwards and, of course, Mac McClung coming in. But can the Red Raiders I almost said Longhorns. That's a sin. Can the Red Raiders hold up their end and be able to combat Kansas's length in this game and be able to find a formula to stop Wilson, who's been just a pleasant surprise of sorts with how great he's been for the Jayhawks?
No, I definitely get it. I think so. Chris Beard talked about his program is a no-excuse program. Even though they have 8 new players, a couple of guys from overseas, transfers, guys who returned last year, they have guys that they play 8, 7, 9 guys that can play. They lock up on defense. Mac McClung has fit in well for Texas Tech. He leads the team in scoring. And they have a sophomore, Terrence Shannon Jr., young talent that can score. These 2 players are the foundation for Texas Tech's success. But Kansas, we talked about Jalen Wilson, the leader, Mr. Consistency, Bill Self, conference game. This will be a battle. This is going to be a challenge for not only Texas Tech, but Kansas. Because these 2 teams, they have similar energies. They play fast. They can play slow. They can throw it inside. They're both versatile. So I think it's going to come down to who can make the most plays consistently. Because I think if either one of these teams gets up 10, 12 points, it's going to be hard for the opposing team to come back.
Yeah, right now for me, Kansas is a better team than Texas Tech. I don't know what to make of Texas Tech. Need to see more of them in this matchup on Thursday. And I think the biggest reason why I say Kansas is a better team in the now is because not only do you have Wilson, but you have Ochai Agbaji, who's just playing on a different level. he's taken his game to the next level. He's more than comfortable being that go-to scorer for this Kansas team. He's an impossible matchup at times. And I think Texas Tech is just going to have a world of trouble at times being able to contain Kansas on the glass and being able to control those two scorers for Kansas in Wilson and Agbaji because of their length and what they can do with it. So, look, Marcus Garrett, he's had a solid start to this season, but where Kansas has differentiated itself, which is where I think they differentiate themselves in this matchup, is with a couple of guys who can stretch the floor, knock down perimeter shots, but also attack the rim. And the Jayhawks have had no drop-off in the ability to rebound the basketball. You know, it's why they beat Creighton last week in what was a great college basketball game. So I like Kansas in this game. But what's interesting is people thought, and I thought too, we both said Final Four dark horse, Texas Tech. We're going to find out quite a bit about them on Thursday night in a home game. Could they win? Would it surprise me? It would never surprise me. Chris Beard is one of the top 4 coaches in this sport. There's no question about it. But Texas Tech has some unproven things that they've got to be ready to solve here in this matchup with the Jayhawks.
Sure. And Agbaji, NBA-ready body. I love watching young players be efficient and take their time and don't rush. And that's a beauty of playing for a team, a university, a coach that already has a system that, hey, just plug in, just do this, just do that. And you can just see a kid like Agbaji and Jalen Wilson blossom. And they make the game look easy. These are 2 of the best players in the country, and they're very, very efficient. They play the right way, and this is why Kansas just sends guys into the NBA constantly over and over and over again, because they have a great, great formula and a great philosophy on how to win.
Well said. Well said, and a fun show here, previewing some of the big games, talking about some of the major storylines. Want to remind you here, at the Field of 68 on Twitter, just scrolling through the feed, there are so many shows right now. Big Volun, which is on Tennessee basketball, that podcast just dropped. Check that out. You've got, I love the Gonzaga pod. I think it's Bulldog broadcast is a lot of fun to listen to. I have a lot of fun. Josh Perkins with Dan Dickow, that's some really good stuff there. And then Luca Garza was just on with Goodman and Hummel. So that's a big-time guest for those guys over at the Field of 68. The National Player of the Year frontrunner, man, Demetris, Luca Garza is unbelievable to watch.
So this is my game of the week. Number 1 Gonzaga versus Luca Garza and Iowa.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, Gonzaga hasn't played in weeks. This is going to be their 5th game. I'm sorry, there were 5 games canceled on them. This game against Iowa is going to be their 4th game being played. My question is, are they going to be in game shape to compete against an Iowa team that is hot right now? Iowa has played 6 games. You can tell that they're in shape. There's a difference between practice shape and game shape. Iowa's going to be ready to take that number 1 spot. This game is basically for the number 1 spot, because if Iowa wins, they jump from 3 to number 1. They may flip-flop if Iowa wins, because Gonzaga is number 1. I expect Drew Timme, Corey Crispert, and Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga to come out guns blazing because they haven't played in a couple of weeks. And they want to keep that game. They want to keep that number 1 spot because they know how important it is to be the top team in the country. Mind you, this is the quietest number 1 team I've heard in a long time, because they haven't played because of the cancellations or the postponed games. I feel for teams like Gonzaga and Drew Timme, who came back to school this year to play and compete for a national championship. They might not be able to even compete the way they want to because of –
yeah, but they knew that going in. You know, you had to know that was going to be the case. But to your point, is Gonzaga. What kind of shape are they in? I think they'll be fine. But, man, this is Iowa's chance to show the nation. And they're ranked third in the country, but I still don't think people across the country know a ton about them. This is their chance to show the nation that, look, we can win the national championship this year. I think that people are still wondering about their defense.
That's it.
Their defensive efficiency in the Big Ten last year was not good. And this year it's kind of been like, well, they outscored North Carolina. They're going to have to defend to beat Gonzaga because Gonzaga defends the hell out of you. So can they do it? You just said it with Timmy versus Garza, Bohannon on one side, Kispert on the other, Ayayi and Suggs, and you've got Toussaint and Nunji. I mean, Wisekamp, who we love. This is a great matchup, and it's going to be a lot of fun in Sioux Falls on Saturday. Lots to look forward to this weekend. He's Demetris Nichols. I'm John Fanta. Subscribe, download, comment. Let us know what you think of the pod. If you got a guest request, tweet at us at John_Fanta, JOHN_Fanta. He is at Nichols_Demetris. Follow us on Twitter. Follow at the Field of 68. There's several podcasts every single day. And if you're a college hoops lover, keep on tuning in because we got a lot more in store for you. So thanks for tuning in. That does it for us here on another Demetris and a Splash of Fanta.